Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the joint meeting of the Human Services Commission and the Commission on Disabilities. So nice to see all the new faces here at the table, including our guests. And we usually begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'll ask everyone to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I will begin with a roll call. Laura Inserto, I'm the chair of the Human Services Commission.
Suzanne Testani, I am the vice chairman of the Human Services Commission.
Hi, I'm Joe Craigie, I'm the secretary of the Human Services Commission.
I'm Carolyn Derby, Commissioner.
Hi, I'm Karen Rosen. I'm the Disabilities Steward.
Anthony Calabrese, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Mary Ellen Gavin with the Human Services Commission.
Dan Moore, Commissioner on Disabilities.
Brett J. I'm with the Human Services Commission.
Marty Schwartz, I'm with the Human Services Commission.
Jill DeMarco, Human and Social Services Department. Who's on the phone today?
Hi, it's Alder Crocker. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yes. Nice
Great.
to have you, Alder.
It's a pleasure to be here and to be at this session. I'm the vice chairman of the Fairfield Commission on Disabilities.
Excellent. Thank you. And we do have a very special guest speaker with us today, Alder. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. Okay. I want to welcome Anthony Calabrese. He is the director for our Fairfield Parks and Rec department here. We appreciate your flexibility. We did move you from 1 month to this month, so that was awful kind of you. Thank you. And I know you're going to enlighten us today about the town's master plan for Parks and Rec, and then once we go through that with you, hopefully we'll have time for the youth services update.
Can I just jump in before Anthony gets started? I just want to manage expectations on the youth services update, that the town is working on a plan for that, so there's very little in terms of the planning we're going to talk about, but any questions you have or any concerns you have, certainly bring up. But it won't be about the town, we're not going to get into the specifics of the town plan.
Okay.
Okay. Alder, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. Otherwise, I would have moved. So, guys, thank you very much for having me. It's great to see so many familiar faces, and it's great to be back in person for a lot of these meetings. So, thank you guys for inviting me here today. So, just to touch upon the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and where we are in our process, the town engaged with BL companies to conduct our master plan a little over a year ago. They held a few committee meetings, a ton of focus groups. They met with a bunch of the different commissions and boards and political bodies and tried to get as many stakeholders involved in the process as they could. We had an online survey. We received probably about 1,000 emails, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,600 responses online through the website and the survey. So needless to say, I believe that we had a really good cross-section of expectations and things that people want to see throughout our park system here in Fairfield. The goal was to have the master plan done in about 9 months. We're trending a little longer than that right now, but they did provide me with a final draft, not a final draft, but a preview of the final draft recently, within the last week or so, and my team and I went through it. We were very pleased with most of the things that they had in it. There were a few things that we want them to go back and, just, I don't want to say change, because it's really more just adding some finishing touches to things, proof editing and things of that nature. But they were tasked with going through every one of our facilities. We have over 60 parks here in Fairfield. 1,200 acres of open space, so that includes the marshlands out here behind you guys. Lake Mohegan Trails, Ash Creek, even though the open spaces do fall under conservation, this was kind of a joint effort. We wanted them to look at parks and recreation, conservation land, and also the school properties. So they did take a high-level view of the open space and the school properties, and a deeper dive into the parks and recreation stuff. They're going to provide us with 15 in-depth plans or proposals for specific facilities and locations, and then the rest of them, they will give condition evaluations, potential recommendations for future usage or additional amenities, things of that nature. So I think the draft was about 700 pages, including all in. So again, Fairfield is we've got a very robust park system here. Like I said, over 1,200 acres of conservation land, another 180 or so of parks and recreation space. So, and quite a few facilities, buildings and stuff. So, I am hoping that the final draft will be ready for presentation to the Parks and Recreation Commission next month at their Parks and Rec Commission meeting. And from there, once they approve to adopt that plan, it'll then be presented to probably the joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the RTM. And then I'll sit with the Parks and Rec Commission over the next few months, and we'll try to figure out, okay, of all these plans, what can be implemented through our operating budget, what has to go on to the capital workshop plan, and over the next 10 years, and start implementing some of the bigger projects that way. But a lot of the themes that came up, and it's great to have some of you guys, the ADA Commission here. A lot of it was about accessibility. A lot of our parks and spaces are dated and they're not accessible. So that's going to be one of the highlights of things that we try to push forward, is to make all of our facilities as best we can as accessible as possible to all populations. So we're excited to hit the ground running with that. Again, a lot of that I think we can cover in our operating budget. As far as the maintenance and stuff of our facilities, most of our facilities, if not, I would say 95% of them rated either in good or better condition. So we had one or two that, they said, oh, this is something you should attack immediately, and in, poor condition. But again, for the size of the town, the size of our budget, we were in really good shape. So I'm happy to entertain any questions. I'll do my best to answer specific ones if I can remember them, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
I have a question on the space. Is there any proposal to increase the number of acres of open space in town?
So there wasn't necessarily, I didn't see anywhere in there where there was a move to say, yes, you should increase the number of spaces. It's one of the things that the town is always looking to do. We did ask them, if when you're out there surveying the open space or our parks, could you also keep in mind, if you know that there's going to be an area that may come up for sale, mark that down and, for the town's future consideration. I don't recall them identifying any at this time, but it is something that we're always looking for.
What about the number of plots? Is there anything to increase the number of plots?
There really wasn't anything to increase the number of parks. It was trying to make some of them a little more functional. One of the great ideas, one of the better ideas that was in the plan was talking about, I think it's Palmer's Neck, which is right near where the old SBC was. You have the old Exide property that was completely right to the left of that, there's pretty much just a wooded conservation area. Again, it's nice to have that wooded area, and they weren't recommending that we completely develop it, but some of the ideas were, well, could you put some walking trails in there? And those are the types of things that, I think would address kind of what you're talking about. It's a newer park that's there. It's land that's not being utilized right now. So that was one of the examples I can remember.
Hi, and thank you so much for coming to us. I've heard so many wonderful things about you from so many people. Does Fairfield have a land acquisition commission?
We do. I don't know how
We have money allocated to them to purchase properties maybe would dovetail into,
I'm not 100% sure how active they are, but we do have one.
because they usually have money where they can,
Mm-hmm.
even to keep space green, Greenville.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is in your purview or not, but just wondering what's happening with the contaminated soil and that, how that impacts everything that you're involved with.
Yeah, a little outside of my purview, thank goodness. But it does affect my life. So all the parks we did shut down back in, I believe it was 2019 at this point, because of I would say fill issues or potential fill issues. Any remediation, not remediation, but any projects that were done to parks between certain time frame, if I remember correctly, it was like 2013 to 16. Any parks that had work where they had fill brought in and there were tickets to prove fill was brought in, the town closed them all down and went back and tested every one of them. We did have, there was probably, again, off the top of my head, maybe a dozen to 18, 12 to 18 parks that did have fill go in. We did remediate. Gould Manor was one of the most high-profile ones. And, we have remediated that, and now that one's back open for play. We do have a couple more to go. The town hall soccer fields were just remediated. If you're familiar with that, those little fields that are there. But we moved the soccer fields over so kids could play, but we do still have some work that has to happen over there. Some clean fill needs to go back in, and leveling has to happen. I believe that there's still work at Dwight that has to happen. May have just happened, but there's a couple more that still have to happen, and then obviously we've got the big one being Penfield Pavilion. So I'm not 100% sure how that project is moving forward at the moment. I know there was a presentation about 2 weeks ago, just to give an update to the funding bodies on, hey, these are the options. And basically the options are leave the building in place and try to remediate underneath it by keeping the building in place. Or the second option, I believe, was just knock it down and remediate and then rebuild. And to my knowledge, the two options were almost the same price. So I believe the first select woman in the administration were really pushing for the project to keep the building in place, even though it's a little more money to remediate. She felt that, the administration felt that the community's already had that conversation. And if you remember, back in 2011 and 12, when that building came down, it took us 5 years of going back and forth and community meetings. Well, what do we want to have there? And the beach folks that live right across the street don't want the gigantic pavilion because they can't see the water. And people across town would love to have a beach pavilion. It was 5 years of back and forth, and finally the town body voted and said, hey, this is what we're doing. So to their point is, we've been there, done that. Let's keep what the town wanted. I mean, did the opinion change? I don't want to argue for the next 5 years about it. Let's figure out a plan to get it back open. So that's where we are.
So does that fall under Parks and Rec, Penfield?
Penfield Pavilion's ours, yeah.
It does, okay.
Yeah. I guess I probably should step back a little, right? I could have given a little more overview of Parks and Recreation. So Parks and Recreation, we do oversee the 5 miles worth of beaches here in Fairfield. So that's, Sassville Beach, Penfield, Jennings, South Pine, Rickards, and Southport. And then we do have the 2 golf courses. We've got H. Smith Richardson up on Greenfield Hill of Hoydens, and then we have Greenfield Hill of Hoydens. And then we do have the par 3 golf course right down here on Old Dam Road. We have the tennis center across the street on Old Dam Road. Obviously, all your parks and fields and all your school fields fall under us for maintenance, except the 2 high schools. We have the marinas. We have 3 marinas. We have South Benson, Yacht Yard, and Paradise. Paradise. So yeah, it's there's a lot that falls under Parks and Recreation.
Wide ranging.
More than you would think.
It really is. It really is. And our staff, our maintenance staff, is a team of, we have 9 right now, full-time guys. And we have, on the recreation side, we have 8 full-time. So, and then a whole team of seasonal employees, particularly in the spring and summer.
Question.
Yeah.
Are there anything in the long-term plans about building a major rec center in town?
That's a tricky one. So,
Maybe that's a tricky question.
yeah, you know, I would love to say, I'd love to give you a definitive yes. There are plans, but there's not a solid plan. The one plan that continues to come up, I've been here almost 20 years now, and the same plan has continued to come up, and that's the Armory building over near Gould Manor Park, the Turner Reserve Center. Supposedly, that really is going to happen, and within the next year or so, that'll be the town. And if it is the town, then my understanding is it will become most likely the recreation department with, a gymnasium, we'll go to the parks department and all that. So,
No pool.
well, again, we tried that one back in 2007. And the neighborhood shot the pool idea down there. But another,
Pools are very tricky.
they are. Another piece of property that the town acquired recently was the Giant Steps property, and they put the alternative high school up off of Barberry, I believe it is, in the Mill Hill section. There's a lot of land up there. It abuts conservation land right now. It is in a neighborhood, and the neighbors went. They came out in full force against Giant Steps with the 36 students originally when that was approved, and now that we've got the high school there, it's about the same size student body that's up there. I believe it's only 35 or maybe 50 kids, but it's not a ton. But there is an older building up there that goes way back that needs to be completely demolished, but there's space there for either more fields, which our master plan is calling for, is to put fields up there, or potentially like a recreation center. Maybe not a recreation center per se, but like an indoor field house or something like that, where the school can utilize it for the high school programs and the middle school programs, and then the town can utilize it from a recreation aspect. But again, that's long term, and I don't know where the town wants to go.
I was just going to ask you, have there been any kind of public hearings or any in the past?
Not yet, not on that property.
If there's a generated interest?
No. And you mentioned the pool was mentioned. I mean, the pool goes back to probably the mid-70s, at least. I have articles sitting in my office about when they wanted to put an aquatic center at Tunstall Park. And again, the town, the first selectman, Mr. Sullivan had the funding from the state on that one, and it ended up being held in a referendum, and then he said, nope, there's too much division on this, we're not doing this for the town. That was like in 1975 or so.
So I live in the Pine Creek area, and I'm always amazed, what is that Boost building?
Yeah, the Boost building is part, so we've split it in two. We've got the tennis center on the back side, where you have the bubble and the tennis court, and then Boost is a private company that we lease that portion of the building out, and basically they're a sports performance group, so they do athletic training, they do personal training, they do fitness classes, all that kind of stuff. And the nice part about that is prior to it being Boost, we used it for programming. It used to be the Beanery. I don't know if anybody remembers the Beanery, where we would do like high school. Yeah, exactly. We would do high school concerts and stuff down there, high school bands and stuff. And it was fun, but the town was losing money. When I took over as director, that was one of the first things I looked at. I said, okay, look, we have this facility, but we're losing money. How can we generate profit from it? We've got the tennis center where we're making over $100,000 a year in profit for the town. I want to kind of do something the same way. So we got to talking, and we said, what if we put in sports training was a huge thing a few years ago. I think it still is, but we had this group come in, and they said, we'll pay you, a lease every month. So they're paying us, and then on top of that, we get 20% of all their programming. So
who is it directed at, though? Is it private or
it's
town?
private, but the town gets 20% of all their revenue.
But I mean, who participates in it?
It's primarily teenagers.
Okay.
Their fitness classes are more of the middle-aged moms during the day, early, like 10 o'clock classes. They're down there doing it. After school, right now you go down there, there's going to be agility classes taking place, personal training will be taking place in the back room. I don't think they still have, I don't remember, they still have a wrestling room in the front, but they had a wrestling program also taking place in the front portion of the facility, which is also, there's doors that space it out.
Yes, hi.
Hey.
This is kind of a personal question, but I was wondering if there's an accessible dog park around.
Yeah, so as of right now, Fairfield doesn't have an official dog park, so definitely we don't have that. In the master plan, they have called out for some accessible dog parks in a couple of different locations, and it'll be up to the Parks and Rec Commission at that point to say, hey, we like these ideas, let's go forward with them. So,
I've fallen several times at Mohegan, so I know that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was curious, and also for certain for folks that.
Yep. It makes sense. I mean, it's been hearing for years.
Building upon that, first, Anthony, thank you for coming. How about, I don't think we have any accessible walking trails in town, do we? And I'm just not aware of them?
So,
Or,
we don't have any accessible is,
whether,
it's a tricky term, right? Because one could argue that the trails back here would be accessible because they're wide enough, they're gravel, they're like a stone dust gravel, they're not the thick, 3/4 gravel. We don't have any paved trails. Like we don't have, the Farmington River Trail that runs right down. I would love to see something like that in Fairfield, but we don't have that currently.
so, for example, when we're looking at I forgot what it's called, next to on the Post Road here in Pine Creek area, next to South Park River Recovery.
Oh, yeah. Palmer's Neck, yeah.
We're dating ourselves, South Park River Recovery. Anyway, Palmer's Neck.
Yeah.
So when looking at that, as if there's parking there, and is that like a new place to go, cutting new trails, would that be an option?
It could be.
As one?
Yeah, it definitely could be. Again, a big focus for the master plan was on accessibility. So we want to try to put in as many accessible trails as we can. One off the top of my head, there's a few, but Lincoln Park on the Stratfield side of town, Jackman Avenue. Right now, there's one sidewalk that comes into that park from
Jackman
Jackman, yeah. It's right on Jackman. The master plan that they've designed has now 3 sidewalks coming in, and they're kind of windy to kind of give a design to them, but they'll be accessible, and they'll end up going to, if we go forward with this, to a covered pavilion that'll have picnic tables and stuff like that. So it'll make the park there, again, that's not a hiking trail, but it gives a little more accessibility to that park. So there's a lot of those in there. One of the things that the master plan didn't capture that we wanted it to capture was the connectivity between parks. We wanted some, whether it was biking paths, walking paths, just connecting the park system. Because right now, every park we have, majority of the parks we have are neighborhood parks, and they're more destination parks than they are, destination is not, that makes sense. They're not, but they're not central parks. Yeah, right, I mean, so we would like to see them connected somehow. Like even this location, we've got bike paths that go down. So, if this bike path ran over to the town hall complex, and then the town hall complex had walking trails through there, and again, that's part of the master plan is to have different walking trails through there, and then we'd like to connect that to maybe, Sherman School, because there's fields and playgrounds there, and then have that go to, maybe it goes down to Penfield, but kind of just create some type of connection between all these parks.
So would the sidewalks and the bike trails come under your purview then?
Yes or no?
Because that's like...
So while they don't technically come under my purview once they leave the park land, it doesn't mean I can't continue to advocate for them and work with whether it's the police commission or, the pedestrian and bike committee.
For like Black Rock Turnpike.
State is a whole other...
Because if you could take on and advocate for the state, that whole section of Black Rock Turnpike, just north of Taymor, heading north, that whole section, it just blocks off that whole part of town that can't reach Lake Mohegan, another sidewalk and biking areas.
Yeah, so while it doesn't fall under my purview, it's something that my department will continue to try to push forward. We need more sidewalks.
And what excites you, like, through this whole master plan that was presented to you? Like, when you think of the town, what are you excited for the town?
Well, I'm excited for some of the opportunities to improve our parks and make more green space. One of the things I felt was lacking, and again, I tried to take a back seat in the process. I didn't want to be involved. I put my assistant director in charge as the lead on the master plan project. I didn't want this to be Anthony's master plan, or anybody to ever say, oh, well, this is Anthony's plan. We wanted it to be the town's master plan. But I'm excited to see some of those green spaces come alive. Again, I mentioned Central Park before. We don't have that destination park. We don't have a Waveney Park. When I go to parks like that, and I'm like, oh man, this is beautiful. We don't have that here. And again, to try to create one of those here in Fairfield is actually pretty difficult because of how our parks are inside these neighborhoods. So it's kind of reimagining, and if we can't get more land, it's then reimagining, okay, well, what do we have and what can we do with it? And one of the places that I'm most excited about is the town hall property. Again, it's already got the Burr Gardens on there, it's got the Fairfield Museum, there's historic things. So there's a lot of history and connectivity that can happen there. It's right next to Sherman, which again is an athletic facility and a school, but connecting those two sites, making it one, connecting it with the museum and the town hall green, that to me was a perfect opportunity. Jennings Beach is another golden opportunity. What the master plan is calling for, and one of the things, again, I'm really excited about, is taking back some of the pavement that's there near the Sandcastle playground on the left-hand side where you have those houses, and making that green space. Because again, there's only a couple times a year where that lot is completely full of, provided we don't have carnival. So retaking some of that green space, adding trees, redesigning the parking lot, putting the permeable pavement in there. So again, it's not just this gigantic, paved area. Making it pedestrian safe, redoing the entrance to the concession building. We have a nice little island there that looks like a deserted wasteland right now. I mean, there's a lot of untapped potential
through there.
Yeah, no, they do, and but we want people to, when you come to Jennings Beach, to be like, wow, this is Jennings Beach. There's potential to put a splash pad in back near the Sandcastle playground. Again, I think of when my kids were little and were going to the playground, like, if we had a splash pad there, we didn't have to go over to the beach, that'd be fantastic. If we could put a restroom building over there, now you don't have to track all the way across the parking lot, or we don't have to use the portables that are there. And that was one of the other things, it was bathrooms. We have a lot of parks that don't have any bathroom facilities, so you have the portables. And
You're pretty up.
they are.
They're expensive.
They're
They cost a lot of money, it's cheaper to build them than maintain them.
So those are some of the things that I was excited about. Little things, but
no, that's exciting to hear actually, because you think about like the way specifically Fairfield structured, you're right, like with all these neighborhood parks, everyone is kind of like discombobulated, everyone's kind of fragmented into their neighborhoods, their portion of town. But this sounds like that piece that you just described sounds like a centralized place to kind of set like a center gathering place for the community.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Excellent. Great conversation. Anyone else have any questions? We so appreciate your time, Anthony.
Oh, you are very
welcome. You gave us
welcome.
a lot of it, and we do appreciate it. I think we're all excited here to see what the outcome of the
We'll see.
plan is.
We'll see how we get the funding, so.
700 pages, sounds like the government.
Yeah, go figure, right?
You need an aid to read it.
Right?
Yeah.
And decipher it.
Not as much as I'd like.
Do you have any update on youth services? I know Julie said that it's limited right now.
Yeah, it's just one of these, youth services has changed over the last decade, last 5 years, 3 years. Really everything has changed since the pandemic. So it is very obvious, I think, to many people looking at youth services and what's being provided and what's not being provided, that really the social work aspect of it is very important, and may not be. Correct me if I'm wrong. We might not be meeting the need that we should be meeting at the moment. So the town is, like Julie said, the town is looking at how we can maybe rearrange things or potentially do things operate a little differently. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of where we are at the moment. We've had several really productive meetings. I unfortunately don't want to get too much detail into them because nothing's been finalized. But I think it's an exciting time to be with youth services and doing that kind of work. So it's really rewarding.
Like Jimmy's been doing, from my experience with her, she does a phenomenal job and very compassionate with the youth that I've witnessed her work.
No, thank you. I know she loves it.
Yeah.
Do you have psychologists on site there in Parks and Rec?
No, we don't have one on staff. I don't know that we have any in town, period. But, you know, right now, the way that works is it's all referrals towards counseling services. Yeah, yeah.
Anyone else?
So, I have kind
No,
of,
it's not bad.
but I'm kind of, I hear you, that you're not going to be able to answer a lot. So it kind of, when do we expect to hear more in terms of what the plans are and when will a draft plan be presented to our commission, as this is something that our commission has expressed interest in, or in terms of the whole town? When can we expect that to happen?
Probably what will happen is we'll continue meeting, and when the plan is finalized, the first selectman will announce it. It's, you know, we're a policy advising board, so if there's something that impacts this department, certainly you would have a voice in that, but we're just not there yet.
Do we have a time frame when we expect to hear more?
No, not a final plan, no.
But I would think accessibility would be an area that we would have some input into.
100%.
Absolutely.
More work for us.
Yay. People that have problems with ambulation.
Okay. So, trying to tailor my questions, I'm wondering, we'll see, I'm expecting you won't be able to answer. So when you think about the Youth Service Bureau and how you are reflecting upon its modifications, and I'm very pleased to hear that there's a recognition that our needs have grown and that there's more, that of course that our social work needs for their youth is very important, and the mental health needs of our community is very important. Good to hear that we're looking at reorganization. Are you able to talk about the Juvenile Review Board and how that plays into the Youth Service Bureaus?
That's part of the same discussion.
Same discussion.
It's part of the same discussion, yeah.
And didn't we hear from them last month?
No, we did, but that was specifically her question, so
Okay.
I'm following up on what she
Great.
was asking.
Yeah, she's been in on these discussions.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the great things that came out of that conversation in July was that it was the impetus for us to really take a good look at it as a town with different departments all involved with it. So we're not trying to be vague or shut you down. It's just more that we're not ready.
Are you able to share which departments in town are involved in your discussions?
Please rec, us, town hall.
Okay. Okay. The school system?
No.
Okay. Have we pursued any state grants, cost-sharing grants, or as we're looking at the reorganization and restructuring, are we looking into state grants to try and help build and develop?
So I assume that our grant writer, our part-time grant writer, is looking at those all the time. We do get a $35,000 grant every year for youth services through my department, which is a match that they give us. I believe it even went up this year. So I know of that one off the top of my head that we do already. But again, Terry Brown.
That's every year.
Yep, we've been applying for that one and granted that one every year for probably the last 15 years that I can recall. But Terry Brown in finance is our part-time grant writer, so she handles all the searching for those types of grants and then applies for them.
I was just wondering, has anyone looked into community development block grants that are block grants through the state? And they change every year, and that could be a sizable amount of money.
Yep, so we do that primarily through our economic development department, economic and community development. They do apply for those, but with having Carrie come aboard only in the last year, as her primary focus, I believe the town has been applying for more and more grants than we have in the past, but now we have something dedicated to that.
Yeah, because that could be a real asset to you, your department.
Absolutely, yeah.
And here too, I mean.
We actually do receive CDBG money.
Oh, you do?
We do, and then from the town economic development, we apply to the economic development department, and they apply for the grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that. Not to digress back to the Parks and Rec overall master plan, but I served on a commission about the Black Rock reorganization of the way it's laid out and everything. Did that go away? Yeah, I mean, I remember serving on that. Yeah, you were there too.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were talking about like redesigning Black Rock Turnpike
Right.
so that it was
With
more
roundabouts
user-friendly and all that.
Yeah.
And it just came to me, did that go away?
I don't know that it went away.
Yeah.
I want to say it got hung up at the state level.
Oh,
I believe
okay.
that was that's my recollection.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
So it didn't re-resurrect with your master plan?
No, it did not.
Anybody else?
And I just have one comment, and the makeup of the focus is on I don't want to say the age, but the people, the elderly, special needs people. And so I'd be curious, I don't mean now, but I'd like to know more about what's being done. When you mention accessibility, we're talking about paths and stuff like that. But I think I'm speaking on behalf of the Disability Commission, so hit me if I'm wrong. We'd like to know more about what's in the master plan specifically about accessibility to the recreational facilities for both the aged and for people with special needs.
Okay.
And in addition, for people who have visual and auditory disabilities, because that would be addressed as well, and including people with disabilities and people with developmental disabilities. So it's not just physical.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Huh? No. Excellent. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Gotta get across town now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. All right, yes. What a wonderful discussion, everybody. Thank you so much. So engaging, and it gave us a lot to chew on. Bob, are you still there, or did your dog, take you out of the picture?
Yeah, no, not my dog, but I'm still here for sure.
All right, great. Thank you.
And,
I'm
looking
gonna
forward
ask,
to being part of that.
I think we want to ask Sheila about the approval of minutes.
Great, so Sheila, I did get your note for the minute approvals. It's the Human Services Commission had a quorum, so the Human Services Commission could approve the minutes from last month, but not the Disabilities Commission?
Well, prior to the joint meetings, there was a disabilities meeting in May,
Yeah,
and those minutes weren't approved.
gotcha.
And at our last joint meeting, there wasn't enough members from the Disability Commission
To approve those minutes. Okay, so it seems like with Alder on the phone, it seems as though we have a quorum now. So, as you're running the meeting, would you mind asking for approval of that? That would be the May minutes, I think? The May minutes?
The May minutes?
For
Okay.
the Commission
And
on
I can do
Disabilities?
that because
Well, Alder could because
he's the vice
yeah.
chair. Yeah.
So Alder, would you mind, we want to approve the minutes for the May meeting?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So.
Can you ask for that, Alder?
I ask for the minutes for the May meeting to be approved.
Is there
And a second?
Great.
I'll second it.
Perfect.
All in favor?
So Karen seconds it.
Terrific.
Perfect, okay.
Oh, who is that new voice?
Oh, it's Patty Donahue.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome.
Hi, Patty.
Good. It's what a wonderful presentation, but by Anthony. That was amazing.
Wasn't
totally
it?
agree,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so then next we can go to the minutes from our
Yep.
joint meeting?
Yep.
Perfect, all right, thanks for that, Sheila.
So I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes from our July meeting for the Human Services Commission.
And, right, and the joint commission.
And the Joint
Yeah.
Commission? Okay.
So moved. Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you.
Great.
So, Alder, I'd like to invite you, if you'd like, to give us an update on your commission, if there's anything since your last meeting that we haven't heard about.
There actually isn't anything at this moment, given that this past two meetings have been, with Human Services, and we've been, privy to the presentations, which have been amazing. But there's really no update at this point. Julie and I are going to be working on the board members. We have some things that are brewing, and we're happy to share that when they break in the next month or so.
Perfect.
Great, thank you. And as far as our Human Services Commission update, we had a wonderful meeting this week with Julie and the members of Human Services that gave their time towards planning our upcoming Veterans Celebration. That is definitely a focus for this commission. And Julie's as part of the Human Services Department to focus more on, celebrating our veterans here in town. And one of the things that Julie has done is thought out of the box of not only just veterans, but Purple Heart recipients. And she put a call out as well as a patch. I saw it on the patch for Purple Heart recipients here in Fairfield. So we had about 30
Yep,
that
and growing.
responded, which is awesome.
Right.
And we are going to invite them and probably one family member or relative to attend as they get celebrated on November 9th. It's Thursday morning.
The 10th.
Oh, I'm sorry, 10th. November 10th. It's a Thursday though, right? Yeah. At 9:30 here in the Senior Center in the cafeteria. There's going to be a buffet, not a buffet, but a full sit-down breakfast that's going to be donated by CHIP here in town, which is so nice. And we're going to ask the Human Services Commission, of course, to attend, but we would like you to serve the breakfast rather than take up a spot at a table, because we do have a limit of up to 100 people. So if you think about the recipients, there will be hopefully maybe 25 of them and their guests, so you're already at the 50 mark, and there will be, our town officials and delegates. Julie gave me the great news that the Commissioner for Veteran Services in Connecticut is going to be our guest keynote speaker. He's accepted that, and his name is again?
Thomas Sadi.
Thomas Sadi. So he will speak on the behalf of the Purple Heart.
Yep,
and the whole event.
Exactly.
For veterans here in town. And Julie was great. She did point out veterans will absolutely be invited to that, but the town also does a wonderful celebration on Veterans Day. So there's going to be lots going on the next day for veterans. So if you do know a veteran that you think would like to attend the breakfast, certainly extend them the invitation. But if it ends up becoming limited and they can't, please encourage them to, participate on a Friday as well. But I think it's going to be a really fun event. Please put it on your calendar if you can, waiter or waitress.
November 10th at what
It's
time?
November 10th, 9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m.
Till
9:30 to 11. To 11, is it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything else to add, Jewel?
Just that it's a joint committee with the Friends of the Bigelow Center and the Human Services Commission. So Joe and Suzanne and Laura met with Sandra Ann Nolfi and Joy Nazaro, who are on our Friends. And it's great to combine it. The Friends, I just want to correct one thing, the Friends are paying for the breakfast.
Oh, okay.
So CHIPS is giving us an incredible deal on it. It's for veterans and their families. We are a newly designated Purple Heart town, which is why the theme is so important and great for us, that we are honoring these Purple Heart recipients. And we're collecting bios and photos that Brenda will work on, trying to figure out how to display and looking ideas. Brenda's on that committee too. Sorry about that, Brenda. But these stories, they're goosebump provoking. It's just, they're beautiful. Just how many people have a loved one who was injured in a war and how they honor them. It's beautiful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love it. Anybody have questions? Yep.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Julie, you want to give us your department update?
Sure. Brenda, you want to go first?
Sure. Right, I'm Brenda, feeling sorry about that. Senior Center, everything's going really well. Lifelong learners are back in the building, which we're really happy about. A lot of people back in the building. Several of our exercise classes are full, and the other ones are almost full. So people were fine with the cost.
Just going to ask you how it's going.
Yeah, it's going great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good, great, good.
We are here, so
Yep.
things are going really well. Really happy.
Good.
Very happy.
Yeah.
Like this patio is kind of done.
It looks great.
Yeah,
Very,
so
very
they're extending the patio, that we have this one little patio, and they're expanding on 3 sides, so we're really excited about that. And add a walkway from under that area right to the building. And President has donated several patio sets, which will fill up that space nicely. So we're really looking forward to that wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is ARPA funded. Something that Brenda will not brag about is that if you look through the newsletter, is the programs for Senior Center Month. Today was bingo and pizza, and Carolyn was there, and it was, I thought it was a lot of fun. You can tell me later if it wasn't. We were punchy at that point.
We had 75
Right.
people.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And prizes, yeah.
75.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Catherine?
So October or September?
September,
yeah.
Senior Center Month.
Okay.
So we celebrated 2 different ways.
Right.
We had hole-in-the-wall egg sandwiches last week. And before that, we had a makeup artist come in from New York City. Which was really fun. Makeup and insurance person. So that was really fun. It was nice to celebrate our seniors that way, and I think they really enjoyed it as well. We've got a lot of new programs going on, coming up in October and the rest of the year.
Yeah, great. She's done a great job with that. In terms of social services side of the building, we are busy in energy assistance right now. You might have read that the state has fewer or less funds available for energy assistance that they're hoping to beef up again. That's been busy. Our COVID recovery fund is busy and picking up. And we are very close, we don't know when yet, to getting the Department of Veterans Affairs office opened at the other end of our building, in one of our classrooms down at the end. And that would be a permanent location for them, which is a real gift for us because they represent the entire congressional district. And to have that office in there and to have even the secretary of that office in there, who we know does all the work. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I love Ramon who does the work, but he travels around. But that is a really great thing for the town to have that in our building. So I'm really excited about that.
How did that happen?
Ramon's been coming here monthly for a really long time. And we had space, available that he could come and meet with people. And his office space in Bridgeport was not ideal for people coming and going or ease of use or accessibility. So we kind of worked it out that maybe there could be some space available, and then it just went from there, which is great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any questions on social services?
How long are the COVID available? Is that a time grant or?
Through 2024. Yep.
And how much is the grant allocation for that?
Up to $5,000, and it's to bills. We do not give people money directly, so they have to, right? We do it. It's a last resort. It's after everything else has been exhausted. It's a pretty thorough evaluation and assessment, and we have a committee that approves, some stuff that comes down.
So rent facilities.
It's anything COVID related. There's a lot of medical, there's insurance, it's a variety of things.
Julie, did I understand you say that this money would go directly to the vendor, to the utility, or to the medical? Okay.
Yeah, we can't give,
No, I understand, I just wanted to understand.
no, that's a great question, great point. And it's paid for, dental work that people just weren't able to go, and, it's paid for a lot of things that.
How do you qualify?
Well, you apply, and you meet with a social worker, and the social worker assesses whether, the financial eligibility is a loose term, but it's typically about 200% of the poverty level. And you have to have been affected by COVID. And at this point, most everybody is, but, some more than others, but the need is real no matter how impacted you are. Housing is an issue. We also, one of the things that through this process is that if somebody is behind on rent or mortgage and they get assistance, every time there's assistance given and a landlord or mortgage company accepts that payment or partial payment, it resets the clock for eviction. So it does extend the time that somebody could be in an apartment, and that gives also time for the people to get back on their feet. So it is a real benefit to those who need it.
And it's done through Human Services and not the town?
It is the town. So we get ARPA funds. The social workers process and meet with the applicants and assess. Sometimes, it is a last resort. So, oftentimes they're saying, you need to get checked with this resource, you need to follow through with this resource, and then come back. And then we have a committee that is the same committee as the COVID relief that expired last year. That's made up of Mark Barnhart is the chair of that, Connie Sachs for finance is on there, Gaylord Lemke from Black Rock Church, Alita Ward from Greenfield Hill, and Carla Nicholas is on that. So we process the applications, present the narrative, and they assess, ask tons of questions, and then approve. We, truth be told, have not denied applications because by the time we bring them to that committee, we've already screened it.
I mean, if someone were not to be approved, is there then somewhere else or some other fund that they're, kind of passed on to, or?
It's kind of, it's not really like that. It's that we haven't said to somebody, no, you're not eligible. What we've said is that you've got to exhaust your other resources. Mm-hmm. So there's monies available like mortgage. There's at My Home CT that's up to $30,000 in mortgage relief. You have to apply. You can't not apply for that. And Unite CT was the other thing that we would say you have to apply. You've got to apply for energy assistance or Operation Fuel, and you've got to go to Alliance to get to every resource that's available should be exhausted. And this is a lot of
So if they followed that process and all of the resources they had gone to were exhausted, then they could be very much assured of receiving funding.
Right, and to be clear, if somebody is struggling and they haven't exhausted all those resources, we're not going to say don't call us till you're done. We do help with assistance with in different ways. We have Salvation Army funds, we have some United Way funds, so we don't turn them away. We try to patch it together as
I'm
we're
just
pursuing
making
it.
sure there's like a safety net that, people don't fall
Right.
track and get discouraged and,
And they may get discouraged, and they may not get all of those. But there's also planning. We can't just, one of the tricks that we have is that as you go, as we're assessing the applications, it's sometimes people are living in situations that aren't sustainable. And if an apartment is too expensive, what's the plan? And that's part of this application is what's the plan? Yeah, right. So because you don't want to, you don't want to put money in something that you could help them in a way get to a better situation. Karen, you're very patient.
No, that's okay. I'm just thinking this is a very cumbersome process. I'm just thinking of a person who may be having these struggles and having these problems and having to go from one place to another place. figure out how to do these applications on their own. It's not easy.
No.
I mean, I must say, it's something that takes a lot of time and resources. Is there anything we can help you with?
We help with that.
Okay.
We do help with that, yes. No. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, we do help with that, yeah. Yes, it is daunting.
It can be,
Yeah.
thank you.
And for those who can do it, sometimes we do say, if somebody is able to do a lot more than if we feel as though there's some independence that should be had, we do encourage that, but we are there.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, Julie?
Oh, I don't think so. Thanks.
Great. So, Carolyn, can you please provide an update from the health department?
Actually, there is no update concerning senior citizens. It was basically the beginning of school with the school nurses and the changes in their documentation, things like that. For that month, there wasn't really anything. Actually, the only one thing was you had a clinic here.
It's on Saturday.
And that was, yeah.
Yep. There's a Pfizer one on Saturday, but the Moderna is full, right?
Pardon?
There's a Moderna clinic too
Oh,
that's full?
I don't recall, I didn't write it down.
This is the clinic on, wow, I'm sorry.
To get a booster shot?
Oh, this is, okay.
Where do you find out about that? In the newsletter, clearly, but,
Yep, and the First Select Women's Update has that
Right.
information,
okay.
and all it is signing up on BAM.
I'll tell you what, it takes a long time to get through that update. No, and I'm not saying it's not good, but like when you click on something for more information, then you're onto something else. It's, especially when you go read up on 830G and what's going on, and then it's an hour, and I'm like, I can't get through the rest of it.
Yeah, it is a lot of
It's a
information.
lot,
I love that.
And she gives a wonderful update. Is everybody getting Brenda's email for the update? Good. Did everybody sign up to be a member of the senior center as I asked? Come on. Uh-huh. You're on a commission that you're not even a member of. It really is easy, y'all. Go online and just, take it 2 minutes. Yeah. Thank you, if you would do that, I would appreciate it.
Like that.
Is there any other forms of extra business I wanted to ask? No, it escapes me. That's it. I don't have any other business. Anyone else have any other business they want to bring
I
forward?
just have a question on the town charter. Where does that stand right now? Is that going to be on the ballot?
That was in Brenda's newsletter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. What?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that's why I thought it was still unclear. I was trying to watch some of the stuff on public television, and to be honest with you, I get kind of confused. But, so it's still unclear whether, because I.
I don't know. No, it may be clear to others.
Going
Yeah.
out and getting all the stuff ready for
Yeah.
that.
I'm not up to date on that.
All of the updates, changes, everything were in her newsletter. So you click on the link and it goes right to all of the inputs that were sent.
And so does it look like our input was accepted?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
and so we think it's on the agenda.
yes,
Great,
yes,
good.
yes. So definitely check out her newsletter. Nobody from the public is here. I know what I wanted to ask for other business. Does anyone have a suggestion for November's meeting for a guest speaker? Guest speakers, I think, are really helpful, right? We all learn a lot.
Great.
So think about it. You can always email, but Board of Ed, okay. I know we've been trying to see if we could get Marie Allen here.
Yeah. I said, we had
Waka.
talked earlier about maybe trying to get somebody regarding veterans for November, so, near
Okay.
Veterans Day, but we could do something else if you wanted. I don't know if Ramon is available for that, but,
Okay.
yeah, could be good.
Could we get somebody, Julie, from transportation department? I'd be curious to tie into all the initiatives we're doing with seniors and special needs folks. I think it'd be good for somebody.
So for GBT?
Kind of like, yeah, I mean, just from the.
DOT.
So
What does G stand for?
Greater.
Oh.
No,
No, you mean, yeah, town.
I was thinking of the town department, like does Anthony have a counterpart in the
Well,
town?
No, there's not really a
Public Works,
transportation.
are you thinking public works?
Like our senior buses is this department.
Yeah, that's the
But I mean, so, you're talking about just busing in general, public busing within the town fair, it does go to the
They
greater.
don't refer to the area.
Yeah,
And a dial-a-ride. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
what is your, like, overall, vision or,
Well, I mean, I'm just anticipating, we have a couple of initiatives going on, where among the things we're talking about is accessibility for parks and recreation. And so my thing is, what about transportation?
Right.
And so that's why I would think, like we had a discussion today with Anthony, I'm curious if there's somebody that could handle that from the transportation side. Because I think that that's the key thing.
Greater Bridgeport Transit District.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? You were breaking up.
You know, I'm sorry, sir. What I was just trying to say is that I think it would be helpful for this group to hear a presentation, maybe with the focus of what we were talking to Anthony a little bit about, as far as what is done to address needs for senior citizens and special needs folks. And I thought in the area of transportation would be an area that would be somewhat important for us.
You're saying sort of accessible transportation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you might want to check out the Greater Bridgeport Transit District.
Okay.
They're the ones that run all the buses
Mhm.
and maybe some special services or extra services for folks who need accessibility. Or what is the status of their accessible buses? Because that's been an issue for many years. And do they continue to get a kneeling feature? And what about wheelchair access?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that would be through GBT, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a grant with GBT for dial-a-ride that social services processes, but there's not really a town department for that.
Okay.
But we could see if somebody from GBT could come.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that would be good.
So we have veterans, transportation, Board of Ed.
How about housing? We talk about, I mean, housing is such an important component for everyone in town, and it can hit when we think about low-income housing, accessible housing, just people who fit into our population, whether they're seniors or they have a disability or have other or low income, and what we are doing in town and what those look like. I mean, I know 830G is all the talk, but we hear about it oftentimes, or at least I see it, hearing about it in others, in the media and in our discussions, oftentimes the problems with 830G, but we don't really hear about the benefits and why we're looking for affordable housing.
So would you say somebody from the housing authority?
Maybe.
Carol Martin?
So I'm thinking about, who could talk about
Yeah,
what is
that's
our
not
housing?
economic development, then it's housing
No,
authority.
Yeah, Carol
I'm thinking
Martin.
more about, like, what housing do we have? Like, we don't have enough, okay.
Okay.
What do we have? And
Yeah.
where is it, and what does it look like?
Yeah,
I've
that's-
heard Mark came and spoke with the Clergy Association. His kind of, he had a lot to say about the housing situation, but also,
Right,
Yeah.
he runs that Affordable Housing Commission, right?
right, yeah.
Right.
So he would also kind of have more to say even than just housing, but thinking about what sort of companies they're looking to draw into their community and how that might impact those of both of our commissions.
Right, yeah.
Also ensuring that private housing, these new apartments and condominiums and whatever that are coming in are proportionately set up for folks with disabilities. Because that comes under the building department.
Right.
Is that a housing code?
It is a housing code.
Yeah,
you have to have.
yeah, we need to make sure that that's being.
Being managed.
How they get around.
Yeah, how and are they doing this?
Yeah.
That's all.
I wonder who that would be to invite for that.
Housing code,
Building department?
building department.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
They're very hard to,
Yeah.
they're very hard to access.
Really?
Yeah, that's, there's.
So you go there, I go there at 8 o'clock in the morning someday, just to watch that line.
Where's this?
That's the building department.
Oh,
That's too bad. I mean, because folks need access to that.
oh, yeah.
And not just contractors, but, regular old folks need to be able to access it.
Oh, yes, they do, but I'm just trying to figure out who would be the person to do that. Yeah, okay.
We could put our heads
Yeah, we
together.
can.
Anybody else have a suggestion?
Get the director who would cover everything. Is there a director of the housing?
So so for building, but also housing, there's a housing authority and the affordable housing.
They're all separate.
Yeah,
But the ones who decide on what I was just referring to
Right.
before was like,
Permitting?
and, exactly,
So,
exactly.
I don't know this person, but Pat Mahoney is listed as the interim building
Mm-hmm.
official. But, I mean, there's like a whole, like, state governed, like, coding that
Yes.
beyond me,
Yeah.
but that someone that might have insight into that could be helpful.
yeah, okay.
Dan, do you work for the town?
No.
Oh.
I'll just go to the website.
I'm just curious.
Let me Google.
Kind of googly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on,
Your resource, that's right.
I'll put myself on the website.
Good. Anybody else? Anybody on the phone? Lori MacArthur, are you on the phone?
No, Patty
She said she
Donahue.
was jumping off that side.
And Alder.
Okay.
So I'm curious with both commissions, how, maybe do we plan a quarterly joint meeting and have a speaker that we share interests with? Because a few of these, I think everybody would want to hear about.
Oh, we're not gonna be meeting jointly with the
Not all
other?
the time.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just follow up from last month.
Okay, got it. Oh,
I know.
I like
But
to see
I
that.
would really like
Yeah.
for the disabilities group, Commission on
Mm-hmm.
Disabilities, be included in discussions dealing with folks with any kind of disability.
No, 100% agree. Marty is our liaison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why not, right?
Right man for the job.
Exactly.
And we thank you for that,
You're
Marty.
welcome, I haven't done anything.
That's great.
It's all good.
Nowhere to go but down.
I don't think there's any public comment because there's no one from the public here. So,
Okay.
if nobody has any other questions, comments, great input, I will ask for, a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that a motion, Madam Chair.
Second? Yeah.
Second.